and we are very happy to just conduct this session, which is exclusively meant for chartered accountants as well as company secretaries. And this is going to be more interesting because it's all about the essence of estate planning. Because even in our previous sessions, which were all the more related to the estate planning, we had very great responses coming from our attendees. And as this is exclusively meant for professionals like CAs and CAs, I think it will add a lot of values and it's going to be more interesting as well as interacting kind. And let me just what exactly we do at C-Profit. C Management Company based out of Jayanagar, Bangalore. We advise our high net worth individuals, institutions and corporates in managing the wealth. And we manage more than 480 crores of assets and assets under our advice and across all the investment products. And we do get quite a lot of references from our existing chartered accountants as well as company secretaries. And this session is basically being conducted based on the advice that's given by our existing CAs and CS. And with this, let me just get into the agenda of the day. Agenda of the day is going to be very simple. We have our special speaker of the day, Mr. A. Suresh, and so we'll quickly move on to the intro of Mr. Suresh, and then will be followed by the Q&A that we have garnered from some of the CS as well as CAs. And also, just we have muted all the participants, so we have the Q&A pane open. So whatever questions and queries you have in your mind, you definitely just post it there. We'll take it to Mr. Suresh accordingly. And then actually just with that, we will just get the session with that. And with this, actually, just I would like to quickly get into intro of Mr. A. Suresh. And he's a very dynamic professional and with over 25 years of experience, of his 15 years in financial services sector in counseling, training and content development with focus on addressing the needs of the clientele. He has got hands-on experience or assignments such as investments, insurance, tax planning, real estate, and estate and succession planning. And when it comes to his academics, he is a certified financial planner from Financial Planning Standard Boards of India, Chartered Trust and Estate Planner from American Association of Financial Management, and he is an associate of Insurance Institute of India, Mumbai. And he is a trainer for CFP, and he is a very well-known CFP trainer across Karnataka and India. And he is a visiting faculty at varied management institutes on the subject of financial services. And he has published a book on financial mathematics, how to use the excellent open office kind. And he has contributed a lot of articles on personal finance and estate planning in personal finance magazines. And he has conducted a lot of workshops on financial planning and estate planning for working professionals and clientele. And he is a secretary and a member of Council of Financial Planners. He is a counselor of estate planning. And he is quite fluent in English, Hindi, Kannada and Telugu. This I would purposefully want to say because I know that today's attendees are from 3 different states, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Andhra. So this will be a very good value addition, I feel. With this, without taking much of time, I would like to just pass it on to Mr. Suresh. Sir, thank you so much for having accepted our invitation here. And really just your sessions are always quite interesting because we used to get such great responses from the attendees. This is over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Vanita, for your nice words and making my day. Very good morning and welcome to all participants from the distinguished profession of chartered accountants and company secretaries. It's heartening to note the commitment of these professionals in their pursuit of continuous education, the hallmark of any profession. This is the 4th webinar I am doing exclusively for chartered accountants post-COVID lockdown. The first webinar I did for CAs of Varsity community from Bangalore, and the second and third webinar is organized by ICAI New Delhi for the chartered accountants from the North and West. The feedback from the participants of these webinars are very encouraging and well accepted and appreciated. I would like to share one question asked to me by one of the participants who is a chartered accountant in this webinar. The question asked to me is, why estate planning topic for chartered accountants? What CAs have to do with the estate planning? Today, the boundaries of professions are moved and altered. The activities that are considered the domain of a profession is being offered by other professionals. Say, for example, traditionally, investment advice is offered by chartered accountants. Today, we have investment advisors, financial advisors, and other persons known by different nomenclature who offer advice on investments. Estate planning is no exception. Traditionally, advice on succession to property held by a family is given by the legal professionals. Today, we have new class of professionals known as estate planners who are advising on succession plan. Our education system is adapting to the changes around, and the new professional certification programs are offered by various professional organizations with the presence across different countries in the world. The world is embracing the gig economy, where professionals are hired for the specific activity for their expertise. Chartered accountants are the most trusted professionals in the society, and the client has no inhibition in sharing the details of their wealth and other concerns with them. You can make a significant impact with your advice on estate planning for the well-being of the client and his family. The learnings of today's webinar are also very much useful for yourself and well-being of your family. I am confident that I will be able to give back much of the value for your time in attending this webinar. For generations, most of the families in India have experienced the complexities and disputes in the inheritance of family assets. I have experienced it thrice so far in my life. Perhaps maybe one more is waiting for me. First experience for me is when my grandfather and his siblings partitioned the family property. The second when my father and his siblings, and the third between me and my brothers. I don't know what is awaiting in the future. The common aspect in all these three incidents are the expressions and the statements that are exchanged in discussions that has a lasting impact in one's mind and heart, resulting into broken relationships. I'm sure you all agree with me that such incidences are common in India, and most of you also would have experienced it, have heard someone known to you sharing their experiences with you. Such incidences have arisen because of lack of direction by the patriarch of the family regarding the inheritance of his estate. What could have been done to avoid or at least to minimize such incidences? The answer is estate planning. A properly executed estate plan would have facilitated the smooth inheritance of one's estate. In the absence of estate plan, the inheritance laws shall follow the laws of succession, which gives scope for complexities and disputes. So in this background, I invite you all for these next few minutes of webinar, and I am sure that the knowledge I share, my experiences of what I share with you would be of useful in protecting and safeguarding the wealth of yourself and your clients for the benefit of their family members. I'm sure you're going to be with me and you understand the importance and significance of estate planning for yourself in your practice. Now, let us try to understand what is the meaning of estate. So people have different myths about this estate. When we talk about estate, someone says it is a real estate, someone says some other estate. So when I talk about estate, it is all about the assets or wealth owned by a person. That is what is estate. Right. So many of us are continuously engaged throughout our life in generating wealth, in creating wealth. But most of the times we fail to give the objective for the wealth we are creating, the purpose for which we are creating the wealth. Most of the time, our focus is only just to amass or accumulate the wealth. It is also equally important to know why this wealth is being created. It is also equally important to have a clarity who will inherit such wealth in the absence of the patriarch of the family. So today, we deep dive into these three topics about what you own, why you own it, and who will own it. Hope I am audible to you all.
You are audible, sir.
Yes. So what you own? So we own various assets or class of assets, what we call like real estate. It could be cash and money equivalents. It could be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, gold, car, and other personal assets like furniture, fixtures. It could be antiques and so on. So during our lifetime, we have a control over these assets, being the owner, and we manage these assets, and we provide the benefits of these assets for the benefit of family members and oneself. Now, we all have to understand that life is always uncertain and it is unpredictable. So in many cases, life is unfair to many persons. It's really unfortunate. We have come across a shocking news in Karnataka. One of the budding actor, 39 years old, died due to massive heart attack in just like seconds. Imagine the impact of the family on the family members. So it is very imperative for us to understand that life is uncertain and make provisions for the distribution of assets or this estate for the purpose for which it is created, and it is to the people, it should go to the people for whose benefit such estate is created. Right? So what happens when a person leaves the estate? If patriarch of the family leaves the estate to the legal heirs, it is known as inheritance. So how this inheritance happens, or the flow of inheritance happens? There are two ways the inheritance of assets can happen. One is intestate, other is testament. So when a person does not leave any direction about the inheritance of his estate, it is known as intestate. When a person makes a proper documentation and leaves the directions about the inheritance of his estate, it is known as testament. So in this case, the default option is intestate. Because most of us doesn't have a estate plan or testamentary document, then the default option is intestate. So in the event of intestate, the inheritance will follow the loss of succession. That means the legal heirs have to inherit the properties as per the rules laid down in the laws of succession. So what are these laws of succession? So in India, we have three different laws of succession. One is Hindu Succession Act, second one is Indian Succession Act, and third one is Muslim Personal Law. Hindu Succession Act applies to Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs and Jains. Whereas Indian Succession Act applies to Christians, Jews and Parsis, and Muslim Personal Law to Muslims, like Shariat law. And each of these laws have laid down the principles or the rules to be followed in the inheritance of the estate left by a person. Now let us say, for example, what Hindu Succession Act says about the inheritance, which is applicable to Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs and Jains. The legal heirs of a Hindu who dies intestate for the purpose of inheritance are classified into three categories. So we call class 1, class 2 and residual. So the legal heirs of Hindu male who dies intestate are classified into three categories: class 1, class 2 and residual. The class 1 legal heirs have a precedence over the inheritance of property compared to the class 2 legal heirs. Right? And class 2 legal heirs will have a priority over the residual legal heirs. That means the first right of inheritance is with class 1 legal heirs, If the class 1 legal heirs are not around, then it goes to class 2 legal heirs. If there are no class 2 legal heirs, then it goes to residual. Now let us know who are the class 1 legal heirs of Hindu male. So the class 1 legal heirs of Hindu male are his mother, wife, sons and daughters. So I am a Hindu male. If I die intestate, that is without any estate planning, okay, my mother, my wife and my children, both sons and daughters, have equal right of inheritance over my property. Suppose I have a son and daughter, my wife is alive, my mother is alive, then all my property have to be distributed equally, 1/4 each to my 4 legal heirs, class 1 legal heirs. So here, there could be complexities because the understanding among the family members may not be smooth. There may be proper coordination with them. Okay. For example, my wife may be financially dependent on me, not my mother. She has her own earnings, or she has a pension out of my father's employment, or she has another children along with my brothers and sisters. Whereas my wife, she is completely dependent on me. Children are minor. So if I don't make proper provisions, I will be leaving my wife in financially difficult position. Or my mother may be dependent on me, or my father may be dependent on me. If you look into it, my father is financially dependent on me, but he doesn't have a right of inheritance over my property. Because my father is not my class 1 legal heir to have a right of inheritance. So the law does not consider the needs and emotions of the family members or requirements of the family members. It treats without any emotions, and because of this, the complexities arises. In the event, upon the death, my death, if my son or daughter also not alive, the share what they could have inherited had they been alive will pass on to their branch of legal descendants. If my son is not alive, the share, 1/4 share what my son would have got had he been alive will go to his children and wife, and so on. It goes up to 3 generations. If there are no class 1 legal heirs to get the right of inheritance, then the property or the assets will move to class 2 legal heirs. So there are different relatives who come under the class 2 legal heirs, and these have precedence in the order of succession. The first in the order among the class 2 legal heirs is father. So my father is not a class 1 legal heir, he is a class 2 legal heir. He will have a right of inheritance only when there are no class 1 legal heirs. The next in order after the father among the class 2 legal heirs are my brothers and sisters, and son's daughter's son, son's daughter's daughter. And it goes on, so on. If none of the class 2 legal heirs are there, it goes to the residual. But unlike class 1 legal heirs, the class 2 legal heirs will have an order of precedence over the others. My brothers and sisters will get a right of inheritance only when there are no class 1 legal heirs, and among the class 2, my father also is not alive, then only it goes to the next level of class. So all this becomes complex. People don't have a proper understanding about the law. They have their own interpretations, which results into complexities. So these complexities would have been avoided had the patriarch of the family has made proper estate plan. So this is for the Hindu male dying intestate, class 1 and class 2. Then let us see in case of Hindu woman or Hindu female. Unlike Hindu male, there are no class 1, class 2 in case of Hindu female. The legal heirs of class 2, the legal heirs of the Hindu female are classified in the order of succession. The first right of inheritance for the property of Hindu female is upon the sons, daughters and the husband. If son, daughter and husband is not alive, is not around, then it goes to the legal heirs of the husband. In the absence of legal heirs of the husband, then it goes upon the father and mother of the Hindu female. If father and mother are not alive, then it goes to be upon the legal heirs of the father and subsequently upon the legal heirs of the mother. It is in the order. Suppose when Hindu female leaves behind husband, son and daughter, the relatives or relations in point 2, 3, 4, 5 does not have a right of inheritance. The legal heirs of the husband will have a right of inheritance only when the husband is not alive and there are no children. So in our society, there are many families who have only girl child, and these women are taking care of the financial needs of the parents, and parents are financially dependent on this woman, though they are married and have their own family life. So in the absence of proper estate plan, and if any unfortunate event happens to this woman, the parents who are financially dependent on such woman they are left to their destiny. So this way, the need for estate planning, importance of estate planning arises. So
Right.
what is the law? Yeah, please.
Maybe with this, I would like to just take the attendees through a poll. We'll continue with the Indian Succession Act.
Yeah, you tell me on this.
So can I start with the poll now?
Yeah, you can go ahead. You tell me when I need to start. I will.
Sure, sir. Yeah. Sir, we go curious in understanding as to just how are you all assisting your clients on estate planning queries now. So we have just opened the poll question. How are you assisting your clients on estate planning queries now? And the options that are given to you are I have a team to assist, or refer to an advisor, or declining the request or query. Let me show the results. Yeah. I raised the poll question, how are you assisting your clients on estate planning queries now? And 25% of you have just replied stating that I have a team to assist. 62% of you have told refer to an advisor. 12% have responded stating declining the request or query. So that's it. Just to get an understanding as to this, whether people offer right now, I wanted to raise the question. Okay. Thank you, sir. We can just quickly just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, thank you for the poll. I also got something to know about it. Okay. Okay. So this what about the loss of inheritance when the property is left behind by Hindu male and Hindu female as per the Hindu Succession Act? So then we'll move on to the next Indian Succession Act, which is applicable to Christians, Jews, and Parsis. Unlike Hindu Succession Act, again here there are no class 1, class 2. There is no differentiation between male and female. The provisions of Indian Succession Act is same for whether Christian male or female, which is really important to understand. So there is no distinction between male and female. And there are different scenarios, situations here, which decides about the inheritance. Let us say Indian Christian, maybe male or female, who is single, that is not married. All the estate will pass on to the father. Father will have a first right of inheritance. Whereas in the same scenario, in case of Hindus, mother has a first right of inheritance. Mother is a class 1 legal heir, father is a class 2 legal heir. Indian Christian, maybe male or female, single, but father is deceased, then it goes to the mother, and also along with the mother, brothers and sisters, one share each. So in case of Hindus, first is mother, then father, then brothers. In case of Christians, if not married, single, the first is father, then it's not mother, along with mother, brothers and sisters. Indian Christian, single, that is not married, both parents are deceased, then all his property or her property, the rights of inheritance will pass on to the brothers and sisters, one share each. Indian Christian, married, spouse is alive, but no children. The right of inheritance of spouse is only up to 50%. Remaining 50% will go to the kindred. That means relatives. In the relatives, the first in the order is father. Whereas in case of Hindus, the spouse will divide the assets or share the assets with the mother in case it is first father. So married, spouse and children are alive. Only 1/3 to the spouse and 2/3 to the children. Whereas in case of Hindu Succession Act, it is equal. So married, spouse is alive, no relatives, then whole of the property will go to the spouse. Married, spouse is also deceased, then it goes to the lineal descendants, that is children and then relatives. So like this, there are many situations, I have given only few here. So we have to understand the situation in which the person has left this world and then decide who are the legal heirs to inherit the property. And this is where the complexities and disagreements arises, and which leads to unnecessary broken relationships. And when it comes to the Muslims, the laws are different. I'm sorry, I'm not able to go much about the Muslim personal law because I'm meant to understand the complexities of Muslim personal law, Sharia. So this just to make a point that in the event of intestate, the inheritance shall follow the laws of succession, which leads into complexities. Number one. Okay. Right. So if you understand now, the drawbacks or the fallout of the intestate is which may lead to disputes among the family members in the inheritance. There could be complexity in deciding who have the right of inheritance. There is uncertainty who will get what and when they get it. Unnecessary and unavoidable expenses in dealing with all these complexities and disputes. The distribution of assets are out of control of the owner of the asset. It goes to legal heirs. He doesn't have a choice in the event of intestate, and there is a confusion. So what could we do to avoid all these issues that arises in the event of inheritance when a person dies intestate? So the answer is estate planning. So when a person decides to give a direction about the inheritance of his estate through a document, which is known as estate planning. By giving these directions, a clarity can be provided, okay, where the legal heirs are expected to follow the provisions made in the estate planning document, which we also call testament.
Sir, I want to just open up for another poll now.
Okay.
Okay, can I take a minute, sir? Can I
Please
float
go
it?
ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Dear attendees, I have another question just to get an understanding. Do you consider assisting your clients on estate planning as a value addition to you? And options available are yes and no. Do you consider assisting your clients on estate planning as a value addition to you? So can I go with a 5 countdown? 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let me close it and show you the results. Sir, actually just 83% have felt that advising or assisting the clients on estate planning is a value addition to them. So
Very good.
that's really exciting, right? Yes, sir, over to you now.
Thank you, Anita. So what is estate planning? So estate planning is the process of setting up a clear set of instructions about how your property and assets will be managed. This is both during life of one person and also after the demise. It's not only after the demise, even during the lifetime of a person. So here we are setting up the clear set of instructions about distribution and management of our property. So which will help us to overcome all the complexities of intestate. Right. So why we need to have an estate plan? What is the purpose of estate plan? Is for the smooth transfer of assets or estate to legal heirs, is to avoid dispute among the legal heirs in the inheritance, is to deter complexities and associated costs in inheritance and provide assets to the right beneficiary, which is very, very important, and reduce the expenses and uncertainty. So these are the various purposes of estate plan or the benefits of estate plan. Who needs estate planning? Any person who owns real estate, that is house property, land, or any movable property, needs estate plan. A single parent with minor child or children needs estate plan. Financially dependent spouse, parents, or siblings. Person suffering from critical illness. Spouse who is incapable of managing the estate. A couple with no children, or a family member with specific needs. Believe me, I have come across the clients who need estate planning because of these reasons. I have personally experienced the sufferings of the clients in these situations. Let me share my experiences. If we take the first one, a person who owns real estate, a property. My father had owned a property, is no more. I am sharing my own experience. My father owned a property. When he left this property, we are three brothers and my mother. Only one property. We come from the moderate middle class family. So the challenge is now, who owns this property? Yeah, when my father died, we were all young baby. I'm just 21 years old. My elder one is 23. My younger one is 19 years. We were single, not married. So we were all staying together. So over a period next 3-4 years, then when the marriage took place of each of my brothers, then the challenge came: who has to move out of the house, the place where we have grown up? So in fact, it raised certain debates, arguments in the family. Okay. I have another experience in my family. Maybe in the year 2007, I got a call from my brother, and the news he gave me left me in a shock for some time. My brother-in-law is almost broke financially, who is a practicing doctor from 1984, having a very good practice. He is considered to be the richest person in my family, and he is broke financially. No bad habits. He knows only practice in the clinic, go back home. That's it. Then I met him. I had to drive to his place overnight, and then when we met him, try to console him and start digging. What is the reason for this? Is that 5-6 years back, my uncle, my brother-in-law's father, passed away, who is also a doctor. So when my brother-in-law started practice in 1984, he started his practice in a family house, which was a very big house in those days. Even today, this house is there, and part of the house facing the road is converted to a clinic. Upon the demise of my uncle, there was a disputes among the family members about inheritance, and because of this, my brother-in-law has moved to other property. So when he moved to other property 3 years back, at the time, his practice has suffered. He moved to different locations, his practice has suffered, and he had made a lot of commitments like buying a new property, investing in the clinic, buying a machinery, incidentally, he's a dentist. So he has to make a lot of investments in upgrading his machinery. The revenues from the different locations could not match with his commitments, and there was a pressure on him financially. Almost he has to give away everything. Had my uncle thought to make a proper estate plan and leave this property, which is not required to any of his siblings, none of them are there in the town or city to enjoy this property except this person who is practicing as a doctor in the property. Today his life would have been comfortable. So that's it. Why these are the two examples which I have experienced in my life about the estate planning, especially when a person owns real estate. The next scenario is single parent with minor child or children. Today there are many single parents with minor children. They are single maybe because the other spouse has demised or died, or there could be divorce, or today The new trend is that without marriage, you adopt the children officially as per the law. Okay. So single parent with minor children, child or children. So what happens to this child who is minor if the single parent also is not around? Who will get hold of the assets held by the single parent, which has to be applied and used for the benefit of the minor child or children? So they need a proper estate plan. They need to leave a directions how to be managed. Affairs of the minor child and property should be managed. Financially dependent spouse, siblings, or parents. My spouse is financially dependent on me. She is a homemaker. My mother is not dependent on me alone because I have other two brothers. So in such case, my focus is to provide financial security to my spouse only, not to my mother or my parents. So in the absence of any estate plan, even my mother have a right of inheritance. With the limited wealth what I have, it could be inadequate for my wife to carry on throughout her life. So I need a estate plan here. Or scenario could be my parents are dependent on me financially. In the absence of estate plan, if something happens to me, my wife and children may not be able to provide financial support to them. So as a son, it is my duty to make provisions for the well-being of my parents. Could be I have a sister or a brother who is young, yet to start earning, who are dependent on me. So I need to make a proper estate plan. A person suffering from critical illness, if unfortunate event happens, then there must be smooth inheritance of estate where the family can carry on with their life. And the most important today I come across is spouse is not capable of managing the estate left by the patriarch of the family. There are still many families we have seen, though the women are educated, but their financial knowledge or knowledge about the financial matters or investments are not to the desired level. Even the earning members' knowledge about the financial matters or the investments is not much. So today, most of the earning members, they take help of the financial advisors in managing their investments. Very rarely I come across, or in most of the cases I come across, the husband or the elder of the family does not discuss about the investments and the process what is following the wealth he has created with the family members. In the event of unfortunate demise of this person, the family members are clueless about the wealth left behind by this person, which is very clearly evident if you look into the unclaimed amount left in the Indian financial services sector. If I am right, Vanitha, you may correct me, there are 35,000 crores of the money left unclaimed, which is with the banks, insurance companies, mutual funds, and other financial institutions. This is official figure I am talking about.
Exactly.
35,000 crores is unclaimed, lying unclaimed with these institutions.
That's true.
Mind-boggling.
Now, mind-boggling. And one more thing to add is, see, we are in Bangalore, which is a high-tech city, and a lot of tech-savvy people, by name just blocking the password. Imagine the kind of thing, and even the family is not aware of most of the passwords because we keep just getting such kind of thing, and we just try connecting even with people who are good at cyber hacking and all, because it's pretty difficult. Be their laptops or everything is blocked, and the family is clueless as to where and all the investments have been made, because even the banking connectivity, everything is through net banking.
Password.
Everything is in online. People go. Right. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
So this is very important that, especially when the spouse is not well conversed with the financial matters, to leave a well-drafted estate plan. This also gives us to understand that every family should have a trusted financial advisor, and such financial advisor should be introduced to the family members. so that these financial advisors will help the family to smoothly take off the financial matters even in the absence of the patriarch of the family.
That's right.
A couple with no children, then who will inherit their property if they don't have a children? It is
True.
better to provide a direction. It could be for a charity or it could be for some other purpose. So in the absence of proper direction, the disputes arises. And today there are thousands of cases in the court, various courts across the country, and most of the cases are about the property, and it's a civil matter. So in my practice, I have to interact with many of the advocates in the process of inheritance in disputes. So I'm told that 60% of the cases in the court are property related and civil matters. So family member with specific needs could be there is a member of the family who is a special person or a disabled person. I may not use this word, should not, but just to make you to understand, with all my heart goes to them. Disabled could be intellectually or physically, or they are challenger persons. Yeah. So there is a need to make a proper provision for the well-being of the person with specific needs. So these are the cases where the red flag is raised that such persons should have a state plan. Otherwise, they are leaving these family members into difficulties. Okay. It will be really traumatic for them to lead their life. Fine. So we understood what is estate planning, the purpose of estate planning, and who needs estate planning. So generally, people consider that when we talk about estate planning, so my estate is not big enough to have a plan. So I would like to assert here that it is not how big or small your estate is, but it is how important your legal has. For me, a 10 lakh rupee or for my family, for my wife and children, 10 lakh rupees may not be a big amount. Perhaps maybe one vacation or one holiday on Sunday, we can blow up this 10 lakhs. And we don't blink our eye and no, guilt in spending this amount just like that. Whereas, if I give 10 lakhs to my mother or my father, they live with this 10 lakhs throughout their life. It's a big pressure for them. In both the cases, the amount is same 10 lakhs. I said same 10 lakhs. But see the importance of this 10 lakhs to spouse and children and to the parents. So this brings us a point that so irrespective of the size of the estate, everyone who owns the assets, everyone who is dependent on them in one or other way needs estate plan. So what tools we have for estate plan? Primarily we use 3 tools here. One is will, other is family trust, and third one is power of attorney. A will enable you to transfer the property absolutely to the legal heirs, which comes into effect after the demise of the person. A family trust will help to protect the property and provide the benefits of the property to the specific family members. A power of attorney will help you to do certain actions or certain things which you need to do where you're not in a position to do. It will help you to reach where you cannot. So all these 3 instruments play a very important role in estate planning. For people who know about estate planning, they think that will is the tool for estate plan. But estate planning is much beyond the will. It's much more than the will. We have come across in many cases, will is not the appropriate plan. Even having the will is of no use for the purpose or objective of the family. So it is very important and imperative to have a proper discussion, understand the desires of the owner of the estate, identify the needs of the family members, and how we can match the assets held by the elder of the family to the needs of the family members. While doing so, we may have to use a will, or we may have to use a family trust, or we may have to use in combination of all these things, not any just one always. It doesn't mean that when the will is necessary, trust is not required, or when the trust is made, will is not necessary, or power of attorney is not necessary. So it is a different approach. We have to look at it 360 degrees. That's what I mean to say that traditionally estate planning is writing a will. Now today the new breed of professionals like estate planners like me, we are looking into 360 degrees in giving advice and designing a appropriate plan for the clients. So power of attorney will be useful to operate the financial instruments like bank accounts, investments, buying and sale of property. In my absence, I can authorize a person who is known to me, on whom I have a trust and confidence, to operate my bank accounts, investments, sale of property. This will be useful. Power of attorney will be useful when a person himself is not in a position to execute all these transactions, or he is away from India, abroad, or he is incapacitated to do all these transactions by himself. In such case, he can execute these transactions through attorney, and he gives the power to his attorney, which we call power of attorney. A will is an instrument by which a person can bequeath or transfer his estate to a specific legal head or any other persons, which comes into effect after his demise. So again, many have a myth that when the will is made, a person will lose control over the assets. No, a will is only a provision. A will get the life only when the person loses the life. As long as a person is alive, will is dead. It gets alive only on the death of the person. That means a person who makes a will today, he can modify, he can change, he can cancel this will any time during his lifetime.
Sir, I have a question, which is, as you spoke about the power of attorney, I have a question here. Ms. Veena, who is a CA, she has raised this question. Is POA-based property registrations are permitted presently?
Yes, in Karnataka, it is permitted and we execute this regularly. Now the question comes, to whom the POA is given. Let us say I am now abroad on account of my work, and we decided to sell a property in India because I want my wife also to come back abroad, and just for that I cannot fly, meeting all the expenses. I can execute a power of attorney in my place of country, get it attested by the consulate, Indian consulate in that country, send this to Bangalore, power of attorney, giving authority to my wife, and on that basis, yes, transaction can be completed.
Okay.
Okay. But the difference is that to whom in the stamp duty and registration charges that is to be paid. If power of attorney is given to the unknown person, unrelated person, not unknown, unrelated person, then the stamp duty is applicable depending upon the value of the property.
Okay.
Okay. That is a different thing. But my answer to the question is that yes, property transactions can be carried with the power of attorney when it is duly and properly executed. You need to know what is duly and properly, which is a main point. Okay. Hope I have answered the question. Right. So then we'll move to the trust. Trust is an arrangement where a person transfers the property to the trust, and such property is managed by the trustees and provide the benefits of the property to the family members, that is beneficiaries. A trust can be a public trust or a private trust. Again, many have think that when we say trust, it is for a charity. A trust always need not be only for a charity. A trust also can be benefit of specific family members. Right? Especially the trust is useful when I have to make a provision, let us say for my brother who is intellectually challenged. Today, the concern of the parents of the special children is what will happen to the property left for the well-being of the special person or challenged person, who can take control and manage. Okay, a trust can be a better option here or alternative here than leaving the property in the hands of the siblings. The other day I got a question from one of the parents, sir, why should I have a trust? I can leave it to my other children to take care of their brother. I said, yes, you can leave it. So let us say, for example, I have a brother who is intellectually challenged. My father has created wealth for the well-being of my challenged brother, and he leaves this property with me because he trusts me that I will take care of my brother. Yes, I also love him very much. It is deep in my heart that he should not suffer for any reason. But I am also a human being. Tomorrow something happens to me, along with my personal property, even the property held in my name for the well-being of my brother will be considered as my personal property, and my class 1 legal heirs have right of inheritance.
Right.
So the alternative could be here is to create a trust and make me as a trustee. So upon my demise, this property is not my personal property, it's a property of the trust. The well-being of my brother will continue. His needs will be continued with the income generated on the property held by the trust.
Right.
So we can take different examples here. So all this is what we understand in consultation counseling, what is the right approach in following the estate plan. So these are the tools we use in estate plan.
Sir, we spoke about power of attorney, and there is another that, because you said in Karnataka it is people can use a power of attorney for reasons wherever they are not in country and all. Now, how about why POA is valid only in Karnataka? How about other states? Like Mr. Pramod has this question.
So registration of the property is a state subject.
Okay.
States make a rule. So I am not aware about the rules made by 26 plus states in India. Okay. I deal only in Karnataka. But more or less every state it is the same. But it is always, I advise to check in the respective states. Okay. Because we pay stamp duty and registration fee to the state government, not to the central government.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. The states, respective states have made their laws on this.
Right.
So these what the tools we use in estate planning. So these tools in a great extent will help us to give a proper directions and make proper set of instructions about the inheritance of the property. So when the family members respect this estate planning document and they follow in letter and spirit the distribution made by the patriarch of the family, can help in a great way to avoid complexities and disputes. Yeah, question may come, does it mean that estate planning, when you have a proper estate plan, does it not give scope for any disputes? Yes, it may give, but definitely it can be a deterrent if it properly executed for any disputes to be made by the legal heirs. So let us understand that life and death is a reality. So there is a saying, Punarapi Jaranam, Punarapi Maranam. This sums up our life in a simple way. We always wish that the family members lead a comfortable and happy life. Though I cannot say that always money or the wealth is important, but of course the wealth plays a very important role for the well-being and happiness of family members. So whatever sacrifices we have made during our lifetime in creating the wealth, let us make its proper provisions by taking a little time and understanding the significance, so that our family members will continue to lead the same comfortable life. We have to envision and dream that whatever we wish the style of or the status of family members during our life period, they should be able to continue the same status even after our life. I have come across, I am sure you also have come across the way of living of the family members who lost their elder member of the family or patriarch of the family has drastically changed.
Exactly.
Right? So wealth generation is only one aspect. It is equally important to have a proper plan for wealth preservation and wealth transfer. So wealth generation advisors are given by many in the society. Could be chartered accountants, could be financial planners, could be investment advisors. But you don't find professionals talking about wealth preservation and wealth distribution.
True.
Though it is considered that lawyers are the apt professionals here, but seldom you find the advocates advocating the general public to have an estate plan.
True.
And it is other way around also. In my experience, I've come across many clients who are not comfortable. I don't know the reason, there are obvious reasons. They are not comfortable to go to the lawyer for this purpose.
True, because one
With
has
all the due regards to this profession, and every profession, I respect every profession. I'm just sharing my experiences with the clients.
no, true. There are a couple of reasons. One reason I cannot open it up now because one is because of the cost, frankly. Other one is because of the time. Because when you go to a lawyer, he is invariably busy. So on more,
Okay.
he ends up spending very less of time. But as estate planning demands a very good time
Deep understanding,
and
deep
needs.
understanding,
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, it demands a very a quality time to just understand the complete needs of the client. That's where what you say is right because we have observed from our investors telling all those things, and that's good. Things
Right.
are, yeah.
So thank you. I think I have just shared my experiences, what I have. I'm sure I could add value to the time you have taken, what I promised you at the beginning of this session.
Yes, sir, exactly.